So, do you have an idea or an invention? And why does that matter? So, first of all, of course, every invention starts with an idea. You can't really invent something until you have the idea for it, right? So, and often with inventions, you identify a problem and you come up with an idea for a solution to the problem. So, I'm going to give you an example to help illustrate this point. So, once upon a time, a long time ago, we would write by taking a pen nib and dipping it into ink, and then you have to re-dip it, and then it makes you have to blot it because there's puddles of ink, and it's messy and annoying. And so someone after a long time figured out it would be so much better if the ink were inside the pen instead of outside the pen. Wouldn't that be so much better? So that was the point where they had an idea for an invention. The idea being ink inside the pen as an improvement on pens that have to be dipped, okay? So think about all the different kinds of pens that you know. There are sort of these rollerball kind of things. There's felt tip. There's there's all the different kinds of ink. This is a vis-a-vis one of those things for the wet erase board or dry erase. So there's all those things. But even just the type of pen itself, the structure itself, you've got these little sort of super fine felt tip, and then you have like the broad felt tip and Sharpies, and then you have ballpoints, right? So there's a million different kinds of pens, and probably more to be invented. Who knows? All embodying the idea of ink inside a pen. So this is why the idea itself is not patentable. No one can really do a patent search on the idea for an invention because you just don't have enough. There's nothing to search. It's an idea. It's a nice. It would be cool if. So let's figure out how to make it work. The point where you're figuring out how to make it work, that's where it starts to become an invention. So I hate to break it to you, but people don't buy ideas. Companies do not buy ideas. You're not going to find someone to pay you for the idea. And I say this because I meet at least, every month or so, I'll meet someone who's convinced that their idea is where the value is, and they need to bring in people to figure out how it works. But it's like, well, they'll figure that out. I'm the one with the idea, so I'm the one that's going to, make $1 million from this. And I have to, sadly bring them down a little bit in just explaining the part the figure it out part. That's where most of the value is, because the ideas are all over the place. Everyone can have ideas. Children have ideas. Science fiction writers have great ideas. That stuff doesn't exist until someone figures out how to make it work. Okay, so ideas are wonderful. They have potential value, and that's great. And I really, encourage you to, if you want to, go down this road which is exciting and fun, and do what you need to do to figure out how to make that idea work. Bring in the people you need, and recognize the value of their contribution. It's not trivial, because your idea has no value at all unless someone can help you, or you can turn it into, can at least figure out how it works. You don't have to have a prototype. You don't have to build it, but you do have to have ideas about, you have to have to be able to kind of sketch it out. If you can describe it in 2 sentences and that's the whole thing, that's as far as you've gotten, you don't have an invention. You have ink inside a pen. You have an idea. And when I meet these people, sometimes their ideas are fantastic. What I encourage you to do is to go back and keep inventing. Figure it out. And then come back when you've figured it out, because that's where your value is. That's where you might want to investigate patentability, get a patent application filed, even if it's provisional, just to sort of, protect you while you go out and kind of refine and test. And again, bring in the people you need to take your idea and turn it into something that could be built, because that's the point at which you have something that you could sell. That's where the value is. So I hope that was helpful. Catherine Cavella, IP Works Law. Feel free, by the way, if you know anyone that's selling ideas and has, knows how to find someone who buys ideas that haven't been figured out, please let me know, because I have lots of people that would love to meet that person. I don't believe that that exists, but I could be wrong. I would love to be wrong about that. It would make a lot of people very happy. So don't be shy. Let me know if you know someone who does that. And until then, check back next week for another video on our feed about intellectual property. Thank you so much. Catherine Cavella, IP Works Law.